Olga anxiously paced in one place, constantly checking the documents. She was terribly nervous because she was about to meet with the director of the company where there was a janitorial position available. And she really, really needed the job. It might seem easy to get the worst job, but not for Olga. She recalled yesterday's conversation with her neighbor Nina. It was Nina who accidentally came across the job announcement. Nina, a compassionate person, saw Olga trying to get her life back on track and genuinely wanted to help. Thank you, Nina, for your support. Yes, they won't hire me with a certificate of early release from prison. I tried everywhere. No one wants someone like me, Olga said with bitterness in her voice. Try everywhere. Maybe you'll see your daughter, insisted Nina. Tears welled up in Olga's eyes at the mention of her daughter. Yes, I'll go. I'll go. And no matter what, I'll get this job, she firmly decided. Her thoughts were interrupted by the stern voice of the secretary. Go in. Mikhail is waiting for you. Olga quickly headed to the door. Entering the spacious office, she saw a pompous young man sprawled in a chair. It was evident that he was proud of his position and showed off how cool he was. If only Olga knew how right she was. Mikhail inherited the farm from his father and happily continued the family business. Initially, it was not easy. Lack of experience, debts, unprofitable projects. But gradually things improved, and now he had an office in the city center, constantly growing profits, influence, and top positions in rankings. With great success, Mikhail shone like the sun and felt like the ruler of the world. But he had one flaw. He hated spending money on others. Of course, he understood that the key to success lay in well-chosen staff. So specialists had to be paid well, and he reluctantly did so. But when it came to cleaning, he cut corners, offering very little money. He had been used to it since childhood. Cleaners changed at Mikhail's place like gloves. Lots of work, and the pay is meager. Mikhail thought as he looked at Olga, considering her just another destitute janitor. Hello, Mikhail. There's a janitorial position in your company. I really need this job. Please allow me to work for you, Olga began. Yes, you may proceed. Sit down. Why are you standing by the door? What's your name? Mikhail asked. My name is Olga. I have my documents with me. Can you mop floors? I hope you can handle that. And dusting. What else do janitors do? In general, I need everything to be clean everywhere. The director bombarded her with questions, casually shuffling through papers. Yes, yes. Of course I can. Olga couldn't finish her sentence when she saw the incredulous look on his face. This, showing her a certificate of release from a high-security prison, Mikhail got angry. I ended up there by accident. I was set up. Well, what does that matter for the job? I will do my duties excellently. Trust me, Olga decisively replied. Inside, everything was trembling for her heart squeezed. She knew her last hope was slipping away, but no, she would fight to the end and succeed. Are you out of your mind? How dare you come here with this? You'll disgrace my company. Rumors will spread that I hired a thief. Mikhail raised his voice. Please don't refuse. I beg you. I need this job like air. It's a matter of life and death. Gathering her strength, Olga pleaded. She staged a performance. She begged. Where did she learn that? Probably in prison, thought Mikhail. He didn't know what had come over him, but he was in a good mood today, just excellent. Maybe because he hit a big jackpot yesterday. Or maybe because a vacation on a foreign seaside was coming up. Well, kind one, today I'll take this thief. She won't last a couple of months anyway, just like the previous ones. All right, enough talking here. I'm hiring you. But I warn you, if you work poorly or, God forbid, do something worse, like stealing from someone, you won't last long. I'll send you back to prison. Do you understand? Go and process the documents, he said, as if doing her a favor. However, Olga was in such a heartfelt rush that the director's unpleasant words didn't affect her. She happily rushed to the HR department. Unfortunately, her joy was short-lived. She excelled at her job. The office shone like the sun, even brighter. It was impossible not to notice. But the staff just bullied her. Everyone looked at her with open contempt, openly stating how the director could hire a thief in such a prestigious company. She would endure the criticisms, swallow her tears, and remain silent. Olga particularly disliked the deputy director. He considered himself a king and a god in one person. It must be acknowledged that he helped elevate the company to a high level. Roman was smart, energetic, full of enthusiasm, but ambition, greed, and exceptional self-love prevailed. Dear viewers, before continuing to listen to this story, I want to ask you to subscribe to this channel. Thank you. He couldn't stand competition, loved all kinds of attention to himself, and tightly controlled everyone. And most importantly, he threatened to take the director's chair. I must be in this position. Roman constantly racked his brains on how to achieve his goal, create his own company. No, it's not working. I earn well, but to start from scratch, you need a lot of money. The remaining task is to make the current director leave. Roman planned to do this only when a convenient moment arises. For now, he is a subservient servant to Mikhail, trying to demonstrate his concern for the work and the team. Mikhail, why did you hire this Olga? The staff is worried. People don't change. Don't you understand that? I found information about her. She was imprisoned for theft and in a similar company. Why did you hire her without even asking why she ended up in prison? Roman insisted. Roma, why are you bothering me? Look at how clean the office has become. No one has cleaned like her before, and for such a small payment. Besides, she mentioned that she was framed. Maybe it's true, Mikhail replied. Roman's persistent attacks were getting on his nerves. The fact is, maybe she didn't come here for the better. Oh, not for the better, Roman taunted the director. Roman, let's stop. Let's go and celebrate our victory from yesterday. Why should we be sad? We have million-dollar contracts ahead, including with foreign partners. We are reaching a new level, my friend. We will live like kings, beyond our wildest dreams. And you keep talking to me about some janitor. Get her out of your mind. Roman wanted to forget her, but he couldn't. His intuition told him that he needed to get rid of her. I'll make sure she leaves on her own, he decided. He tried with all his might to create unbearable conditions for Olga and the company. Why did you sneak into our office? You're disgracing us. You don't belong in decent society. Don't dare touch my desk and belongings with your fingers. Leave. Roman persisted. He couldn't think of any more dirty things to say to Olga, but he didn't understand that it was in vain. After the betrayal of loved ones, Olga's soul had hardened and seemed to have turned into armor, and no one, especially this Roman, could penetrate that armor. I, like a soldier, am just doing my job, Olga said to herself. Only one thing troubled her heart. How was my little girl, my dear daughter? She probably won't even remember me. 5 years have passed. What was it all for? How could I be so trusting? With tears in her eyes, she thought about work and the burdensome thoughts of the past for a month. Another workday arrived, but it was unusual. From the early morning, the office was as noisy as a factory workshop. All employees rushed around like crazy, preparing for the arrival of a foreign delegation. The day before, Mikhail had instructed Olga to clean all the offices to perfection. Hey, janitor, start with my office. I need to go out on business. Roman shouted at her and left. Olga loved cleaning very much. In the offices, books and folders were neatly arranged on the shelves. How familiar this was to her. When she saw documents neatly folded on the tables, she felt the desire to sit at the computer and immerse herself in the world of numbers, tables, and calculations. After all, in her time, she prepared hundreds of contracts. But all that was in her past life, and now, Olga sighed heavily. Suddenly, her gaze involuntarily fell on a gray folder, standing out from the stack of documents on the table. A crumpled sheet was carelessly thrown into it. The woman understood that she shouldn't poke her nose into other people's affairs, but she couldn't resist her curiosity. It was a cunning financial calculation with numerous numbers. Glancing briefly at the document, Olga felt something was wrong. She wasn't accustomed to relying on intuition. Grabbing a calculator with her sharp mind, she was finally convinced that the documents were a clear manipulation. Her anxiety intensified when she noticed today's date on the reverse side. And today, important business negotiations and a major deal were scheduled. Olga immediately recalled how she herself suffered from almost the same setup. It was urgent to inform Mikhail about this. She had no doubt for a second. Olga would never wish anyone the same fate that befell her. The woman hid the folder in a bag with cleaning supplies and, looking around, headed to the director's office. Mikhail was busy all day. It was catastrophically difficult to get through to him. Olga was rudely kicked out several times. "Are you going to wave a rag here?" "I don't need to clean. I urgently need to see Mikhail." Without being disturbed, Olga stood her ground. "You've tired me out." Mikhail prohibited anyone from entering without his call today, the secretary insisted persistently. Olga no longer heard her words and, as if possessed, rushed to the office door. Her hand touched the handle. The secretary jumped up and tried to block her way. Suddenly, the door swung open and the boss glared at them angrily. "What are you screaming about, like two enraged hens?" shouted Mikhail. "Stop it immediately. We have a business meeting with foreign partners today." "Where are you looking, Ludmila?" "I asked not to let anyone in. If you spoil my meeting, I'll fire you." Mikhail couldn't contain his emotions. Mikhail was stunned when he saw the janitor at the threshold. It's all because of her, meddling where she shouldn't. The director directed his anger at Olga. "What are you doing here? I don't want to see you. Especially today. Go away." "No, I won't leave, Mikhail. I really need to talk to you. Can I come into the office?" Ignoring the director's offensive words, Olga said. Mikhail had no choice but to do the same. After all, it wouldn't be right to attack the janitor with fists. "You have 1 minute. What do you need again?" The director barked again, dissatisfied with life and death questions. "Oh yes, Mikhail, please listen to me. This concerns a new deal. Your deputy Roman is setting you up. He manipulated the financial indicators of the company, wants to make you look bad in the eyes of the partners, all to get rid of you and take your place. I have evidence." Olga handed the director a folder with documents. Mikhail blushed like a lobster and slammed the folder on the table with all his might. "How dare you slander decent people? Roman is talented, a smart leader, you could say, the brain of our company and a true friend. And who are you, anyway? Need a reminder? Roman was right, 1,000 times right when he said not to hire you. And I, an idiot, didn't listen. But today, I'll correct the mistake. Write a resignation. Today," the director shouted. Olga did not expect such a reaction at all. She thought the director would be interested in her message, and if he didn't believe it right away, he would ask for a document check. But he was so blinded by the success of the company and believed in the crystal honesty of his employees that he refused to accept anything that dispelled this myth. "Are you still here? If you don't leave this office within 3 seconds, I'll call the police," the director shouted. Olga obediently went to the door, but suddenly turned around and said to Mikhail, "Give me 1 day, and I will prove that you can't know about business, especially financial affairs, just a simple janitor. Your place is by the bucket with a mop." The director still didn't believe Olga, and she didn't give up. "Just believe me, I am absolutely sure of what I'm saying. I haven't worked as a janitor all my life." Suddenly, the director's face changed, and his voice softened slightly. After a moment of silence, he said, "Well, suppose I agree to your absurd adventure if it turns out to be slander. I'll fire you not just like that, but under an article. Then, even as a janitor, they won't take you. You'll be begging near the church, do you understand?" "Yes, of course. I need the company's financial statements for several years and financial documents for the new deal," Olga replied calmly. "Okay, wait. What do I tell the foreign partners? They will be here today," Mikhail asked. "Well, come up with something. They won't be in the city for just 1 day. Arrange a warm welcome. Discuss joint cooperation. Hint that serious deals are not made so easily and quickly. They need to be reconsidered. Everything will be, but tomorrow. That's roughly what you should say," Olga answered. Michael just nodded in response and watched Olga closely to the door. It's amazing that someone with her intelligence and honesty ended up in prison. It's just hard to believe, he thought. I hope everything the janitor said is untrue. Olga first discreetly sneaked into the deputy director's office and put the folder in its place. Fortunately, Roman had not returned yet, and when he did, he, of course, didn't notice anything suspicious. And when Michael announced that the contract signing was postponed until tomorrow, his plan to dismiss the director would work 100%. Roman had no doubt about that. For the rest of the day, Olga performed her duties as a janitor, and when all the employees went home, she entered the accounting office and spent almost the entire night there. Accounting entries, calculations, contracts were before her eyes. the endless flow of numbers. Finally, her efforts were successful. Concerns about the upcoming deal were confirmed, but that wasn't all. Olga managed to expose Roman's criminal schemes. He not only tried to majorly undermine the director, but also embezzled the company's funds. It's strange that no one noticed it before, or maybe they just didn't want to notice. In the morning, tired with tired eyes but satisfied with herself, Olga came to the director's office. "I need to see Michael," she said. "Again, you. Had enough of yesterday. Want to make a scandal again," the secretary protested. "Call the director, tell him Olga has come," she told Libla. "What happened?" Michael asked with pleasure, pouring a cup of aromatic coffee. The first meeting with the new partners went well, even better than he expected. "A lucrative contract is almost in our pocket. You don't want the janitor to come in again?" the secretary asked. "No. Why would I?" "Let her in," Michael replied. Bewildered, Ludmila almost dropped the phone and looked in amazement as Olga entered the office. Michael wasn't as furious today as yesterday, but with his whole demeanor, he showed that he wasn't very happy about Olga's arrival. Michael's heart was pinched. As soon as he saw her, his brain refused to believe that unpleasant and even criminal things could happen behind his back. He was not at all prepared for such a turn of events. "Michael, I've sorted through the documents. My conclusions have been confirmed. Now I'll explain everything to you," Olga said decisively. Michael's legs gave way, and he gasped. He blushed, then turned pale as Olga, with copies of the documents she made, tried to convey the bitter truth to his consciousness. "All right, I'm done, Michael. What's wrong with you?" she asked when she saw the director holding his head in his hands, his gaze fixed on one point. "Nothing, I'm fine. Everything you said sounds convincing, but I will check it. Leave the documents here and go. Work. Attend to your duties," Michael said. "Yes, of course, Michael." Olga hurried to the exit. In the corridor, she ran into Roman, who looked at her with displeasure. "Good morning, Roman," the secretary said with a smile. The man also smiled in response. "Yes, please come in," Roman said. How much Michael wanted to punish Roman for betraying him. After all, he had always trusted him in everything, but the man managed to control himself. It's too early to draw conclusions and fully believe Olga. After all, he has known Roman for many years, while this janitor, just a few days. Michael found the strength to smile and shake hands with Roman, and then, as if nothing had happened, he began to discuss business. Olga, barely finishing her day, came home in the evening. Her feet ached. She just fell on the couch and immediately fell asleep. It was a happy dream. After all, in it, she was with her daughter, from whom she had been ruthlessly separated for many years. In the morning, Olga couldn't believe her eyes when, as usual, she came to clean Roman's office. The man loved order. Heaven forbid if he saw dust somewhere. It drove him crazy. And suddenly, instead of a well-groomed office, Olga found herself in a real dump. Torn pieces of documents were scattered everywhere, piles of scattered folders and books. Oh God, there were plenty of cigarette butts on the table. Roman never allowed himself to smoke at the workplace. A second later, Olga shuddered with her whole body at Roman's screams behind the door, resembling the roar of an enraged lion. The woman ran out of the office, trying not to be seen by Roman. She understood that something terrible had happened in Roman's life, and she guessed what exactly. Olga rejoiced in her victory. No, she's not the kind of person who would say something bad. Well, caught. Get what you deserve. She just wants justice, just like in that year when the most precious thing was erased from her life. Her thoughts were interrupted by the shout of one of the women working in the office. "Hey, you," go to the director. No one could even guess. Why did the director call Olga? "Hello, Olga. Come in, please," Michael said kindly. Olga was speechless. The director had never called her by name. Yes, no one called her by name at all. The words spoken by Michael completely shocked her. She didn't even immediately believe her ears. "I am very grateful to you for those documents and for understanding them. If not for you, I would have lost the company and might have had legal problems. I did not expect such a thing from my deputy. Thank you very much." Now it was Olga's turn to blush and pale. Although she hadn't done anything supernatural, she just took off Michael's rose-colored glasses and showed him the truth. "Come on, Olga. Don't worry like that. I should apologize for my sometimes unworthy behavior towards you," Michael reassured her. No, don't apologize. You've done a lot for me by hiring me. After all, my former cellmates won't even take me as a janitor. Olga replied quietly. And how did you end up in prison? I should have asked about it earlier. Then perhaps our relationship would have been different, the director asked. It's a long story. Olga did not expect such a question but continued. I used to be the wife of a successful businessman and the chief accountant in his thriving firm, a house, an ideal family, a loving husband, and a beautiful little daughter. She paused, lowering her eyes. And what happened? Michael asked. One day, people in uniform entered my office, provided evidence of financial fraud, and took me to the department. I found out what was going on from a lawyer hired by my husband. I was shocked that he was not interested in my release, as it was our common business. I dealt with my husband's finances. He was very pleased with that, and I fully trusted him. He quietly embezzled our common money, and then, with his lover, and incidentally my friend, decided to get rid of me. They did it wonderfully. It's sad because I was a professional in my field and didn't notice the trick, Olga said, holding back her emotions. How is this possible? Exclaimed Michael, genuinely feeling sorry for Olga. I was just blinded by my family happiness, loved my husband, signed many documents he gave me. Always. He repeated that it was necessary for the company. While I was in prison, they deprived me of parental rights, so I need a good recommendation to at least be allowed to see my little girl. Tears welled up in Olga's eyes as she recalled her daughter. Sincerely empathizing with her, Michael said, maybe a cup of coffee to calm down. And I also have a business proposal for you, he continued. Yesterday, as soon as this nightmare was confirmed, he decided to replace Roman, who had pretended to be his friend and partner for so many years, with Olga and dismiss him without regret. Olga, I offer you the position of deputy director. But Olga hesitated, not knowing what to say. I'm firing this fraudster, and you're offering me to take his place. Are you okay with that? The director asked. It was challenging for Olga to make such a significant decision immediately. Michael nervous for doubts. Don't worry, Olga. I have seen your abilities and can trust you with this position. Agree, you need a good job and a recommendation. All night, Olga couldn't sleep. Chaotic thoughts filled her mind. Would she be able to handle it? How would the team react? They all hate her here, and she needs to look the part of a high-ranking position, but she doesn't even have the money to buy a decent suit and shoes. Luckily, her neighbor Nina came to the rescue again, lending her clothes. In the morning, Michael gathered the entire company to introduce the new deputy. Everyone was in anticipation. Finally, the conference room door opened, and all eyes turned to an elegant woman of pleasant appearance. With a confident stride, she walked through the entire room and sat next to the director. A dead silence fell for a few seconds. Michael interrupted. Dear colleagues, I present to you my new deputy, Olga Zaitziga. Please welcome her to our team. Disapproving whispers spread across the room. She's our cleaner, it can't be. Look at her, deceiving the director. The office buzzed like a beehive, but after the director's glance towards the employees, the gossipers quickly quieted down. Olga enthusiastically engaged in her work. She constantly reviewed documents and always left work last. From a shameful position, she found herself in a prestigious job. It became clear that the former deputy hadn't been too concerned about the company's affairs lately. Personal status took precedence. Olga's efforts paid off. The company's business noticeably improved after another successful deal. Michael called Olga into his office. Congratulations, colleague. We are entering into a new contract, and you played a significant role in this, Michael said with a satisfied smile. I'm very glad, replied Olga. That's not all, Olga. I found documents about your ex-husband. He turned out to be an incompetent entrepreneur and went bankrupt. I've hired the most competent lawyer in town for you. He says you're currently in a winning position and there's a good chance to regain parental rights for your daughter. Olga couldn't hold back her tears. She didn't expect such a genuinely noble gesture from Michael. Olga had experienced betrayal from her husband, endured a difficult prison life, made a swift career ascent, and she would regain her daughter, definitely at any cost. And this would be her greatest victory. Thank you for your attention. Watch the next videos, put likes and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next story.